name's Ian Marshall. I live and farm in County Armagh, a couple of miles outside Market Hill. It's a very traditional farm. It's livestock and some cereals grown. And we've farmed here for generations and try and live and work in harmony with nature and the environment. So a number of years ago, when we were milking a large dairy herd, we were managing all our water, all our runoff water. We had invested a lot of capital in storage facilities, storing all our slurries, effluents, all our runoffs. But there still was an underlying problem with dirty water running off concrete yards. It was a consequence of vehicle traffic and deposits of silage or forage and the traffic that travelled over that. So in an attempt to try and do something about that, we were contacted by Alan, and Alan told us about a plan he had looking at underground swales to manage the wastewater and to look at a system and a process where we could manage it and treat it.
Yeah, I'm retired now, Alan Keys. I farmed for 25 years. I then worked with the Ballinderry Rivers Trust. We started in 1984 and I suppose we were breeding fish, especially Dollahan, and they would run all around the Lough Neagh system. Then we got into education, then we got into fixing up habitat, and now we're into trying to prevent runoff from farmyards getting to rivers.
And I suppose at the early stage, our initial idea was it was a bit counterintuitive, because what it involved was slowing water up leaving the farm, as opposed to the traditional farmer attitude of trying to get water to leave quickly. But 2 years on, and after the installation, it has worked really well. And the water that leaves the farm now is managed and controlled. In fact, most of the year there's no discharge from the farm at all.
This is a very sophisticated piece of kit here, a shovel full of stones in the drain, just to stop rubbish and leaves and stuff going on down into the system. Because we're taking the dirty water that you see here, travelling in this shuck, and encouraging it to go into pipes further down. So you need to take the rubbish out of it, like leaves. So that's just a rough filter. At some stage, Ian, you might have to lift that batch of stones out and put another few stones in, or even more stones above it, just to sort of freshen the filtration system up. The comfrey starts here. This comfrey system starts here. In order to keep the price down, we made these wee dams, first of all with clay. There's a pipe goes right across the drain with holes in the pipe. The holes in the pipe are slightly lower than the sill here. We made these with soil, first of all, try to cut down the price, and one big weekend's rain washed our soil away, so we had to go concrete. So there's a series of dams. So we're trying to encourage this dirty water out onto your feet and turning left and heading downhill. You can see the line that we're going on here. So there's 6 comfrey plants wide, a metre apart, starting about my foot here. So that comfrey the whole way down there just goes in with the grass to make silage. Actually like a ladder. You have dirty water going down the shuck, comfrey growing right to the edge of the shuck, and most of the dirty water actually coming down here. There's 6 of these pipes running 3 metres apart and 19 rows of comfrey. So you can scale this up in terms of length and breadth. So it's just a matter of bringing that water out and teeing it into that, 3 metres out, teeing into another one, 3 metres out, teeing into another one. The point about this system, why I think it works well compared to your constructed wetlands and your old reed beds, is that Ian's cutting it and taking it back up to the yard. Whereas reed beds, you're not harvesting anything. The old and the newer constructed wetlands, never harvest anything. So in the wintertime it just returns the nutrients back to the area.
There's only water leaves the farm if it's wet winter weather, and that water is clean. There's no issue presented with that. And I suppose the interesting thing, it's through a process of check dams and underground swales. Those underground swales were constructed 2 years ago, cost of about 8,500, which included all the site works, included the aggregates and stones, and included the price of the comfrey plants. So the system of underground swales and check dams slows the water up, pushes the water into the ground. Some of the water dissipates into the ground, the other surplus nutrients are uplifted by the comfrey plants, and then the comfrey is harvested with the silage 3 times a year. There was absolutely no funding available for this, but the way we looked at this was we wanted to be responsible in managing wastewater leaving the farm. When we looked at equipment we could buy, we were probably looking at £10,000–20,000 to buy any equipment that would just simply take that water and spread the water back over the land. That in itself created problems because you get absolutely toxic land around the farm because it's just continually bombarded with nutrient-rich water. The beauty about the system is that there's no running cost with it. It's easy on the eye. You look across the field, it doesn't look any different to the field did before we installed it, and it doesn't involve expensive equipment on site. Well, the beauty about cutting it with the silage is that as the plant uptakes the nutrients from the water and the swales, that those nutrients are utilised by the plant to grow the plant, and you take it off farm, so you're continually drawing the nutrient loading out of the soil. So for that reason the comfrey works well, and as much as it doesn't appear to be palatable for grazing animals, when it's in the silage and part of the forage, it's actually, you don't see it, and as regards the analysis, it's 20–25% protein, so it has a value as a feed source. I think what we need to do in Northern Ireland is look at nature-based systems where we can manage the nutrients in farms. We need to accept that most farmers are very responsible. Most farmers want to do the right thing and want to manage the nutrients in the farm. Most farmers are very conscientious because, remember, we've family-based farms and the vast majority of people take immense pride in those businesses. So this type of a nature-based solution is something I think we need to be focusing on. Yeah, I think this is something that dairy should consider supporting, and I think we need to look at schemes and catchment areas. And rather than farms working in isolation, I think there's a support mechanism needs to go in to support groups of farmers working in particular catchment areas and build, because that collective responsibility, I think we'll get better traction and quicker action.
In order to find where the pressures are with pollution going heading for Lough Neagh, I think that the only way to do it is a full scan where people need to go to every bridge, and there's 2,500 bridges with water flowing underneath them heading for Lough Neagh, and just do a biotic score, and that gives you a value between 0 and 10, and that's the only way I think that we can find out exactly where the problems are. Yeah, it can be as complicated as you want to make it. I use a very rapid system where I turn over about 12 stones, and it's the picture of the bugs underneath those stones that allows me to give it a score. If I see nothing, only leeches, it's going to get a score of, well, 3 maximum. But if I'm seeing the right kind of olives, like flathead olives and stoneflies, then it's going to be a 10. So there's anything in between those two, and if you like, it can be red, green and amber in between, scores of like 4, 5 and 6. Far, far better than I think they're given credit for. I've done 100 bridges so far, and my impression is that about 70 to 80% of farms are clean and green and deserve a lot of praise, but the whole of agriculture gets bad press because of about 5%, you know, who really need to be, they need to sort out the pollution leaving their farms. And at the minute, this farm would have been classed as maybe green with a bit of amber, and now it's completely green because of the Comfrey project. You know, you could go up from the bridge here. We're quite close actually to the source of this wee river, and there might be 20 farms, and you could go up 3 bridges up and find a 6 and then back to a 10. So that would just indicate that there's a wee bit of work needs to be done locally at that bridge. I think it'll give you a history of the pollution or no pollution for about 4 to 6 months. So ideally you would like to be doing it every 4 months. I don't think that's ever going to happen, but I would love to see every bridge in Ireland checked once a year, and I think if we did that for about 5 years, it would leave Ireland with a really, really good image. I've only scratched the surface, but at least you're getting an impression of what's going on.